This week on Entrepreneurs, we explore the trends that are changing education and we meet the founders whose vision and practices will have a global ripple effect on learning. I'm Jack DeLosa and Entrepreneurs starts now.
This is Entrepreneurs.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs, where we talk directly to the founders of Australian businesses. Tonight, we speak to the entrepreneurs who are challenging the way kids, students, and adults learn. First up, we're talking with David Chiem, the Australian expat behind the globally successful early learning institute MindChamps. David's story is quite remarkable. He arrived in Australia with his family as a Vietnamese refugee at the age of 9. He didn't speak a word of English and had very little access to any resource at all. He has gone on to do many significant things in business, media, and the arts, but today we're focused on his inspirational work with MindChamps. David, thank you very much for joining us.
Great. Good to be here, Jack.
Now, David, MindChamps holds the #1 position for early learning education in Singapore. You're also located in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, the Philippines, Vietnam, Myanmar, Australia, and on the horizon is China and Malaysia.
Yes, yeah.
What is it that you guys do that's so different in your approach?
Yes, yeah. Well, in fact, when we first began as a team of researchers, we realized that globally there's a huge gap. And sometimes in society, Jack, we kind of put things upside down. In education, really, what we should be looking at is, from early childhood. Because, sometimes we wait until people become adults, and then we ask the question, why aren't we more creative? Why are we more confident? Why are we more, able to learn and process information in a much more interactive way? We ask these questions, which is all to do with mindset, and it really needs to begin in early childhood. And when we were looking at this space, we realized that, Alvin Toffler, the futurist of future shocks, he talked about this concept. He said that the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write. In fact, the illiterate of the 21st century are those who cannot unlearn to relearn. And when we examined that, we realized that while people talked about that, we had to go much deeper and look at how do we solve that issue. While people confront us with these challenges in these gaps in society, how do you actually get to the roots of solving it? And we realized that when he's more talked about unlearn to relearn, learning is not about the what to learn. You and I went to school for many years, 5 days a week. We learn a lot of the what to learn. In fact, very rarely were we taught by the system the craft and the art of learning how to learn. And that is the relationship of the learner to the learning process itself, so we can build a learner for life. So when Toffler was talking about learned, we were looking at just not the what to learn, but the gap, which is the craft of learning how to learn. And then when he touched on that, if you learn, unlearn, relearn, if you think about unlearn, relearn, what's it really about? I mean, to unlearn and relearn, what's that about? That's really about mindset. Because if you don't have the right mindset, there is no unlearning, therefore no relearning. True? It's about mindset. And so at MindChamps, we realized that education should really be about 2 areas to fill in this gap. That is the craft of learning with the mindset of the learner. And to solve this challenge, we really had to get to the roots. It has to start from young. And all the global research has shown that the first 6 years of our, child's development and the way the mind is, formed and shaped and begins to form connections with learning, the first 6 years is critical. It's everything. In fact, if we get that right, everything else fits. But if we don't get that right, the loving for learning, and then from that perspective, we did the last 20 years of empirical studies. We thought, what kind of mindset do you need? And that is, by the time the child faces the real world in 20 years' time, from, like early childhood to finishing a basic diploma degree, that's about 20 years by the time they face the real world. That's the year 2038. I mean, no one can tell us what the year 2038 will be like. But what we do know is that with artificial intelligence, really already outthinking a lot of what we can do today, we need to develop mindset. So gone are the days of content and just even thinking. While content and thinking is critical, we had to develop what we call this new movement for education. That's what we coined the three minds movement. What kind of mindset do they need in 2038? The champion mind, the creative mind, and, as I mentioned, the learning mind. And that's what we call the three-mind movement of education.
Let's dive into those three minds a little bit deeper. Talk to us through those three minds that sort of comprise your pedagogy, really.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, the champion mind is due to a research done with, in fact, a very renowned neuroscientist, Professor Alan Snyder. And this was done during the Sydney and the Beijing Olympic event itself. And in fact, we also did it during the Singapore Youth Olympics. And this was a study to study what is it that makes an individual from all walks of life, from politics, arts, business, science, and sport, to go on to achieve their own so-called, the unique, their own strengths to become their own champion. And by champion, we mean not about elitism. We're talking about to be the best you can be in your own field, and be your own best. And so we studied what is it that makes champions who they are. What is that ingredient? What is that mindset that helps the individual to be the best they are? And it's not about the skill set. You see, skill set anybody can learn. Yeah, in fact, AI can learn it even faster than us today. But what we need is the mindset of the learner. Yeah, and it's the mindset that's the transferable commodity, not the skill itself. So the champion mindset was the base of everything that we were doing. With that mindset in place, with that study, we then had to move on to the next area, which was the creative mind. And creative, mindset also, this comes from, Alan's published work about creative mind, where we were looking at, how does the mind actually synthesize concepts, from non-conscious ideation, how do ideas get formed, and therefore, how do we apply multiple perspectives of seeing the world? So therefore, creativity essentially is about nurturing the young mind to be able to see the world through multiple perspectives. And it's only when you can see multiple perspectives that you can then synthesize different concepts to create something new. But if your mind is so set into the way of seeing something, which we all get mindseted, but if you're not nurtured to see the world through multiple perspectives, it's very challenging to expect the adult to just say, I want you to be creative right now. Sure. In fact, I gave a talk to a group of leaders once, and I said, creativity and innovation, it's not like a tap. You don't just switch it on. Yes, you have to nurture this from young. The third mind, which we touched on, was the learning mind. And that was about how does the brain actually learn itself? What does the neuroscience and psychology say about the learning process in terms of concept formation? How does the brain form concepts? And therefore, how does the brain, non-consciously ideate and make those connections? Because no matter what we learn, in life, whether it's from school, throughout life, it's all about, for our mind, it's about concept formation. And it's about the synthesis of structures and narratives that forms concepts that then become something that we then learn as a concept, therefore we apply.
Do you think we should be introducing more values-based education, particularly for children at a younger age?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I know that STEM has been a bit of a buzz, and it's been, all of that area has been around for a long time. But really, the focus there needs to be really balanced. Values, which is linked to a person's, morals and mindset, and who they are as a human being today, is far more critical than ever before. Because when we have a world where general AI, who can even outthink and outdo, it's already beating the world's best debaters and chess players, we really need to be nurturing the character of the person, not just the content and the facts. Yeah.
David, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Jack.
You're watching Entrepreneurs